Grading every Premier League club based on this weekend's Premier League action. There are some massive games. We'll be covering Chelsea, Man City later in the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Would really appreciate it. Let's start off with a very professional, powerful performance from Liverpool versus Brentford. Salah on great form. Alisson pulling off incredible saves. Szoboszlai looking fantastic as well. And these are the kind of games where Liverpool have to be winning. Of course, they have dropped points recently. I look at the Brighton result in particular, a game after the Spurs horror show, where they didn't correct themselves quickly enough. They didn't bounce back really as quick as Klopp would have wanted them to. And therefore, they've dropped a few points in the Premier League title race quicker than maybe I even gave them credit for. I thought they'd bounce back and win 6, 7, 8 in a row. And clearly they're not quite there yet. But I still think they've got the ability to mount these kind of wins against the Brentfords of the world at Anfield and make Anfield a fortress. Where Salah looked absolutely electric. The finishes are just... I know the first one in particular just looks standard for Salah, but the power he hits that into the bottom corner, you have to be really confident you're not skying that. You have to be... It's the kind of finish only world-class players make, and he's been doing it for 4-5 years now at Liverpool. He is beyond world-class. He's the best right winger in world football. And if he stays fit and you can kind of create this energy around him that works hard off the ball, he's one of the best players in world football. He's top 5 players in the world. And against Brentford, I think he was absolutely superb. Liverpool are punching towards the top end of the table. Spurs have fallen off a little bit. City have dropped points to Chelsea. Arsenal looking good, don't get me wrong. They've only lost one game, but they lost to Newcastle, who are just below everyone else in this kind of top 6, top 7 arena, who've just lost to Bournemouth in their own right. I think the top of the Premier League table is a little bit more compressed than a lot of people gave it credit for. I don't think City are going to run away with it necessarily. Liverpool, Arsenal and Spurs are all in with a shout of getting points on City, points on the Spurses of the world that were leaving the table. And I think the Premier League title race is a lot more condensed than we all give it credit for. I'm going to give Liverpool a massive A+. I thought they were absolutely electric against Brentford. And I was hoping City could get a similar 3-0 win against Chelsea. It wasn't quite to be. Brentford, on the other hand, they're not expected to win these kind of games. And what can you say? We'll give Brentford a C. Chelsea 4, Man City 4. Have to start off with Chelsea. Very, very impressed with how those guys are ticking along under Pochettino. As much as I hate to say it, because ultimately they represent a rival to the Man Cities of the world. Because once Chelsea get going, and then they can spend even more money on the basis of what Pochettino's doing, he's living in dreamland. It's a bit like when he was at Spurs. He built this foundation on Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Lloris, Harry Kane, Dele Alli. And then he wasn't able to spend for 2 years, and it set them back a couple of years. It plateaued the whole squad. With Chelsea, he's building a foundation. I thought Dizazi was good. Sanchez was actually good against City. Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Conor Gallagher. He's building this foundation. The players are beginning to believe in his principles, in what he wants. They're working really hard. I thought they worked very, very hard against City. Next summer, they could spend 400 million quid. And add Osimhen up front. They could add a world-class... I think they need another world-class centre-back, because I think Thiago Silva's getting old. He was fantastic against City. So it's very, very promising if you're a Chelsea fan. I have to give these guys an A, because a couple of weeks ago they got smashed by City, and they've improved week in, week out. Man City, on the other hand, a little bit frustrating. I think the 4-1-4-1 formation did not work for Guardiola. He didn't treat this game like a classic Big Six game, in my opinion. I know he kind of played Bernardo in a similar role against Man United, but then he played Grealish in that game, and Doku started this game. It was a game too much for him, in my opinion. He couldn't get into it. I think Reece James had him a little bit on toast. It was the wrong formation. It was the wrong personnel changes, and it said that Guardiola was very confident against this Chelsea side. He wanted to smash Chelsea 2-3-4 early in the game and kill the game off. It's very hard to do that when Chelsea are actually playing to the standard they should do. And conceding that penalty, I think it was soft. I still think it was soft. But a 4-4 draw away from home isn't the worst result. I think holding on for 4-3, even a 1-0 win is a beautiful result. Conceding 4 is a little bit frustrating with Gvardiol, Diaz in the side, Ederson. So I think there's a lack of control on this City side. You can't give them an A. I think City deserve a B. I think that the lack of discipline at points would worry Pep Guardiola. We're going to move on to Spurs. Lost to Wolves. You're 1-0 up at Molineux for 88%, 90% of the game. Brennan Johnson with a nice little finish in the box. Nice, what was a tap-in, but it was a nice, well-worked goal from Spurs 2 minutes into the game against Wolves. And they couldn't hold on. They couldn't hold on to the game. They didn't have enough creativity to get the second goal, to get the third. They had some good chances. Kulusevski had a chance, I remember. But Spurs fans wouldn't be disappointed based on where they are in the league, but I think you could narrow that down and say, would they be disappointed on their reaction to the Chelsea game? Yes, because they weren't losing to Wolves the whole game. They lost in the final 6-7 minutes. Lamina obviously topping things off. So it's a very poor result for Spurs. They'll get back in it. They should be beating the likes of Wolves with the squad they've got, even without Maddison. And I'm dead set on that idea. This Spurs side has got a lot of money in it still, without Van de Ven. Especially with, these other players coming back from injury as well. I have to give Spurs a D. It's classic Spurs-ism. Gary O'Neill, A, all day long. It's one of the best results of his managerial career, in my opinion. I'm saying that because it's such a small kind of career, but he's had good performances now. Very similar kind of performances for Bournemouth, for Wolves, in terms of how he gets his midfield to press, bomb on. He's a very progressive manager. He really is. He sets his side up defensive, but he is acutely aware of how to get mobility, how to get a direct brand of football that doesn't look ugly on the eye. Wolves are a good watch. They really are entertaining. And how to... They're not going to smash sides with 60% possession the whole game. But for 5-minute spells, they keep the ball tidy. They really do. So I'm a massive fan of Wolves. I'm going to give Wolves an A+ performance of the week, in my opinion. Man United won, Luton 0. It took a scrappy, deflected kind of rebound for Lindelof to score against Luton. Little bit ugly. Rashford missed chances. Højlund yet to score in the league. This side should be beating Luton, and Luton put up a great performance. We'll give Luton a C, but Man United is still ugly. Still, they make you grimace sometimes watching football. There's just something unpleasing about watching Man United play football. We'll give Man United a B. Arsenal versus Burnley. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I would really appreciate your feedback on this type of content. What can I say about Arsenal? I don't think Vieira was a sending off. I thought it was a little bit light. They blew past Burnley in the final 20-30 minutes. Burnley got no quality. Again, it's another D performance from Burnley. But Arsenal, they've shown physicality. They've shown resilience. And I like what they're doing. They are a good side, Arsenal. You have to give them a B for this win against Burnley. We're going to skim the rest of the games. Bournemouth, Newcastle. Bournemouth have to give them an A. I want them to get relegated because of how they treat Gary O'Neill. But beating Newcastle, wow. Newcastle, are they in crisis? Not great in the Champions League. They're still in the cup competition, the League Cup. So they aren't going to be challenging to win the title. They're going to have to focus on their Champions League campaign, winning a trophy and trying to get back-to-back top 4 finishes. They're not out of doing that just because of this result. It's still a D. You shouldn't be losing to Bournemouth. Brighton 1, Sheffield United 1. It's a good point for Sheffield United. Brighton obviously had a sending off. What can I say? I think Brighton at home would expect a better result than Sheffield United. Both sides. No, Sheffield United get a B. Brighton get a C. Forest versus West Ham. West Ham got into the game very, very well. Kudu's a great player. Paqueta was fantastic as well. Forest, they're so open at points and they waste so many chances. And one year had a beautiful opportunity to give it to Morgan Gibbs-White to make it 3-2 to them, I think it was. They are so wasteful, and if they're not careful, they'll be looking down the league as opposed to up it. I'll give them a C. West Ham, B. They're looking solid under David Moyes. I watched Palace versus Everton, and Everton are looking cheeky. They're looking decent. What can I say? Mykolenko looked decent. Decore playing in balls. Fair enough. It's a hard place to go, Crystal Palace. This Sean Dyche effect is slowly ramping up, and they are getting somewhere. Mark my words. Maybe that's just 15th and not 18th every season or 17th. Maybe it's 12th. But Palace have to be careful. I don't think they've been great in the last few weeks. The Roy Hodgson era is coming to an end. Whether it's this season, maybe it's one more next season. I find that highly doubtful. They have to figure out who they are very, very quick. It's a poor result at home. They would not have expected to lose that game and concede 3 goals. That's for sure. But I'm sure he'll correct the ship. It's a D for Palace and it's an A for Everton Football Club. And very finally, Aston Villa versus Fulham. Did watch enough of the game. It's a great result for Aston Villa. They need to be winning these kind of games to maintain pressure on European positions. It's a B for Aston Villa and it's a C for Fulham. If you've made it this far, would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. I'll see you very, very soon. What are your grades for the teams that you support? Let me know and I'll see you very, very soon.